Hey there friends! Today I'm taking you along with me as I milk our mini Nubian dairy goats, and I'll show you exactly how I process the milk for the best flavor and shelf life. If we haven't met before, I'm Sarah. I live here with my family on a small 2-acre homestead in Phoenix, Arizona, where we have a small flower farm, we raise dairy goats, and I teach homesteaders the art of making beautiful wheels of goat milk cheese. All right, let's get started.
On the road, I've been away for far too long, but now I'm on my way back home. I hear the west winds calling out my name. They telling me to head your way, down your road and past your gates. Keep your eyes on the horizon. I was looking to belong when I'd already found my home. Won't be long, I'm there before the setting sun, for you to fall into my arms, a place I call my home. I was looking to belong when I already found my home.
All right, so now that all the goats have been fed, all the chickens and cats and dogs and everyone else has been taken care of, the kids have decided to go inside. They played outside for a while. The girls are so very helpful to me and love to take their baby brother inside and play with him for a little bit while I finish up the milking chores. So I'm going to grab my grain and get it all situated here in our milking parlor, and then bring the girls up and I'll show you exactly how to milk. And I'll also show you how I like to milk each individual goat, because they have different styles of udders and teats, and that changes your method of milking. So I'll show you that too. All right, so in my cart here, I've got my jars. I've got supplies for straining the milk. And then today it's time to give our herbal dewormer. So I've got the wormer and I've got the kelp granules that I like to mix it into. And this here is some yogurt whey that I'm going to mix into the doe's grain ration. Before I feed grain to my girls, I like to soak it, sometimes just in water, but often I'll add a bit of apple cider vinegar or some yogurt whey. You could also add just plain yogurt. It's got all kinds of great probiotics in there, especially if you're making it yourself with milk from your own goats. But this is a bit of the whey from making yogurt, and I find my girls enjoy it, and it adds a boost of some probiotics to their feed too. Now, the reason for soaking the grain is that my goats are gobblers, and goats in general tend to gobble down their feed and they can choke pretty easily, or they just eat it too quickly, and that's obnoxious. So I like to soak the grain in water. This works best if you have a mash style grain mix. Our grain mix we are able to get by the pallet load with a group of other local homesteaders here from Montana. And it is an organic, corn and soy free grain ration that's formulated for dairy goats, and it's been really great. We really, really love it. If I can't get my hands on that for some reason, I will mix my own with barley as always the base. I find barley is just the best grain for dairy goats. I really don't recommend using a sweet feed or any sweet feed style of feed. It's usually just pure garbage, quite honestly. So if you can find even just a plain rolled or cracked barley, whole barley, any kind of barley is great for goats. And then you can mix in extra things like field peas, oats, cracked wheat, black oil, sunflower seeds, flax. Those all really help as well. But barley is the best. So anyway, my goats get about a pound of grain on the stand. That's before it's been soaked. So about one of these scoopers full of grain while they are in milk. We don't feed grain to goats that aren't in milk unless we have someone that has a weight, deficiency that we're working on. My bucks don't get grain. My wethers that we're raising for meat don't get grain. We just simply haven't found it necessary. If you have a larger breed of goat, you probably need to give more grain than that. And if you have a smaller breed or a goat that just doesn't produce as much, you may need to give less. But I find about a pound of grain per milking is a good kind of place to start with. So some of my goats get a little bit more than that and some a little bit less. They are towards the end of their lactation at this point. It is the middle of November. Most of them freshened in March and April. And so we're getting towards the end. They've all been bred, fingers crossed, they've all been bred successfully by our new little buck. And so I am still milking them once a day, not pushing hard for milk. We're getting about 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons each morning from them. And I'm milking 5 does right now. At their peak, they were each giving close to 1 gallon a day. Some give a little more than that, some give a little less. So I'd say averaging about 1 gallon a day. And we were not getting 5 gallons though, because we were kid sharing and then eventually dropped down pretty quickly to just once a day milking. So we were getting 3 to 3.5 gallons a day at peak. And at this point, we're getting 1.5 to 2. And come December, I will start drying them off for their March kidding dates. So I'm going to get them their grain right now, and then I'm going to get them up on the stand. I like milking 3 girls at a time. So I have 3 stands set up. I find that getting them on and off the stand is actually the part that takes the longest, not the physical milking part. So getting 3 at a time, and then I just give a little bit more grain as needed. That is helpful to me and saves a lot of time. So I get 3 up first, get them all milked, put them back in their pen, and get the other 2. And that works really well to keep things kind of streamlined during morning milking. So this goat is always first up, so she gets her full grain ration. These 2 I'm going to milk next, and so I'll give them just a bit to start with, and I'll fill it up for them when I actually get around to milking them so that no one runs out of grain. All right, we got to distract the pig so she doesn't try and get in here. And now we go get the girls. And they know, they are creatures of habit. They know who's up first. Don't you, girls? All right. One, 2, 3. You're next. And they went right to the right spots. Here we have Ella. And we have Dandelion. And we have Rosie. Rosie got her collar off somehow. So first things first, we're gonna wipe down the udders, and I like to do this all at once here. So you can do this with a variety of things. You could get a soapy rag. I personally just use baby wipes because we live in a pretty dry climate. My girls don't tend to get very dirty. So a good old baby wipe does the trick. But if it's cold and you feel you have the need to kind of warm them up before milking, or your girls get extra dirty, you might try bringing out some warm water in a soapy rag or something like that. All right, so let's talk pails for a second here. So if you can find yourself a nice squat, kind of short pail that holds about 1 gallon, this holds a little bit more than 1 gallon. That's gonna be ideal if you're milking dairy goats about the size of mine. These are mini Nubians, and so they're a mid-sized breed of goat. These are hard to find. Everyone wants to know where I get this pail, and I'm so sorry, I don't have a source. I inherited this from a friend when she downsized and got out of dairy goats. She gave me all her stuff, and she's had this for a long time, and she was not quite sure where she got it either. I've kind of scoured the internet and never found anything quite like it out there. But I really highly recommend stainless steel. Don't use anything for your milk besides stainless steel or glass. You're just going to end up with off flavors. Plastic harbors bacteria and odors and flavors. And so really best for high quality milk is going to be stainless steel or glass containers. So if you can milk into a stainless steel container that doesn't have any like lips that curl over and can kind of harbor milk or bacteria underneath that are difficult to clean, find something that's easy to clean. Better yet, something that fits in your dishwasher if you have one. It's going to be the best way to keep everything just easily sanitized and free from milkstone and bacteria buildup, and you're just going to get the best flavors in your milk. I like that this is short because it fits under even my girls' udders that have longer teats, and that way I'm not kind of scrunched up for space because I am hand milking. So let's get started with Miss Ella here. All right. So Ella's got 1 foot up because she is a kicker. So she's got 1 foot kind of cradled up, and that makes it easy for me to milk with her balancing on her 3 legs, and she's eating her food just fine. So we've got our milk pail, and Ella's got these nice long handles, honestly better than my cows when I used to have cows. If I just squeeze this teat here, nothing's gonna happen. No milk's gonna really come out, maybe a little bit, maybe loaves, maybe a little bit. But the milk is all up here in her udder. So goats have 2 halves to their udder. Cows have 4 quarters, right? Goats have 2 halves. And this is the udder, these are the teats. The milk is not really in the teats. You have to squeeze it down out of the udder into the teat. Now look how nice and full that is. And so now if I use my other fingers to squeeze around it, I'm gonna get a nice stream of milk there. So I'm trapping with my finger and thumb in this C motion here and squeezing with the rest of my fingers. And you can kind of get a rhythm here with 2 hands. Now at this point I can tell Ella's getting low on milk because I'm getting very little when I squeeze. And you can see her teats are kind of looking empty here, a little bit wrinkly. And if I bump her udder, it doesn't feel like there's any milk really in there. So I'll strip out those last bits of milk there. And we'll call it good. Move on to the next goat. All right, so Dandelion here has probably my favorite udder in my herd. Let's see if we can get her to move her foot over a little bit. You can see. All right, so she's got nice, high and tight, good attachments, lots of good capacity. This is only her 2nd year milking. And her teats face forward and are a good size to wrap your hand around. And she's got a really excellent, she's got really great orifices too. So the milk comes out in a nice thick stream and you're not really having to struggle for it. I did miss sharing this when I milked Ella over here, but first things first, you're gonna strip out your milk. Some people like to use a strip cup. I don't find that necessary. Either just strip it onto the ground or onto the milk stand here, and it's pretty clear pretty quickly if you've got clumps and such in it. So I don't worry about stripping into a strip cup at this point. All right, so we're gonna get started milking Dandelion here. Now the reason for stripping out the milk is that those first few squirts of milk have the highest bacteria count in them. And it's kind of what's been sitting at the bottom of that teat since you last milk or since they last nursed, if they've got kids on them. And so it is best to just discard that milk. It's also a good indicator if there's something wrong with their udder health, if you see clumps or blood or that sort of thing. So that is why you discard those first strips of milk. Now with Dandelion here and her specific udder and teat shape. I'm going to do the same sort of thing that I was doing with Ella, make a C shape, trap the milk and squeeze. Only she's got more milk up here in her udder since she doesn't have quite as long of a teat. I'm going to trap right up here by her udder and then squeeze the milk here with my other 3 fingers. You might find that one side of their udder has a little bit more milk than the other. That's okay. All right, so she's done here. I'm gonna give you a good view of what an udder that is empty looks like. So you can see her, she doesn't want me touching it now because she knows she's done, but her udder looks pretty saggy and empty. No more milk left, and when I go to squeeze it, there's not very much coming out, if anything. All right, our last goat here in this first batch of 3 is Rosie. She's got one of my smaller udders, but it's still nice, good attachments, high and tight. She just has less capacity because she's a lower producing goat. And that's okay though. Dandelion next door is her daughter, and so I've gotten some really great goats out of her. She does produce well, she's a great mother, she kids easily, so she's still got all the things that I'm looking for in a dairy goat as I breed. So she's kind of got this squatting stance here. I don't know if you can see. That is a sign of a good dairy goat. She's squatting down just like she would if she's feeding her baby. She's very ready to give me her milk. So we are gonna get around to milking her now. Now, let me see if I can get a better visual on her teats here for you. So Rosie here has much smaller teats than my other goats. Can't really get a whole hand around those. But she has the nice, soft and supple dairy skin on her udder that makes it easy for me to grab around her udder to still milk her very easily. I personally am not a fan of the style of teat that a lot of Nigerian dwarfs have, where you really have to milk with just your fingers. And so I'm just not up for that. I don't want the carpal tunnel or the time it takes. So I like a goat that I can wrap my whole hand around.
Why do you have a camera? What is that goat doing? Pumpkin.
Eating all the grain off of pumpkin, that's funny.
Why is she doing that?
He's hungry. She's got grain on her head. All right, and there's our milk. I'd say it's about a gallon. We're gonna go strain it out and then move on to the next batch of goats. So in the summertime, I definitely find that to get my milk chilled quickly and rapidly, I have to bring an ice chest full of ice water out to the barn with me. And I keep my jars in there, and then I filter the milk directly into the jars and keep them in ice water until I finish all of my barn chores. And I get the milk down to around 55 degrees Fahrenheit before moving it to my fridge. And cooling the milk rapidly is what's going to really help with shelf life. If you want milk that tastes really sweet and delicious at least a week or even longer after milking, you're going to want to rapid chill your milk. But this time of year, it's a nice chilly rainy day. I don't feel the need to gather all of the ice water and the ice chest and everything to bring out to the barn. So I just filter my milk and pop it directly in the fridge, and it chills rapidly enough that it still tastes great. I want to be clear though that rapid chilling the milk is not what makes your milk safe. You could leave it on the counter and it would still be safe to consume. It's just that the shelf life is going to be a lot shorter because of all that amazing beneficial bacteria in there. It's going to continue to multiply, and eventually the flavor is going to get really strong as the milk begins to naturally clabber. All right, so I've got my canning funnel here. That just makes it easier to pour. I've got my disposable milk filter. You can also use something like cheesecloth if you prefer not to use disposable products. You just need to keep that cheesecloth really well cleaned and sanitized to avoid bringing in off flavors to your milk. So if you're having trouble with really goaty tasting milk and you're using a reusable filter, That's the first place I would start in diagnosing what is going wrong with your flavors. All right, found another collar for Rosie. I'll have to find hers another time. Get her locked up again. All right, so you can see here, Miss Agnes has some pretty great handles and a lot of udder capacity. So she has shorter teats than Ella did, but I can still get a hand around there pretty well. Same sort of motion, C shape, trap the milk from the udder into the teat. Strip her out. Milking is one of those things that feels challenging at first for most people. There's just something to get your head around and how it all works, and it can be slow and tedious, but once you get the hang of it, you can milk very quickly. And honestly, this is one of my favorite things about my life, is that I get to come out here every morning, sit next to my girls, slow down, get that rhythm, that practice of patience and fortitude and commitment, discipline, self-discipline. Get out here every morning and just milk a goat. And then you think, wow, this is one of the most, if not the most, nutritious and just absolutely incredible healing foods I could possibly produce on our farm. And all thanks to these sweet girls and our mutually beneficial relationship. All right, we're on our last goat here, Ginny. Strip her out. I already wiped her down. Let's go ahead and milk her. Some other things that really affect the flavor of your milk is minerals. Your goats have quality minerals available at all times. A mineral deficiency makes a big difference in how the milk tastes. And so does their diet. Alfalfa will always help the milk taste really nice and sweet, and it has the benefit of being a high protein, high calcium feed. So it's really excellent for lactating or pregnant does. We just feed it year round to our does, their kids, and any wethers that we're raising for meat. Bucks can't have alfalfa regularly. It's not great for them. It can lead to a calcium buildup that can cause urinary calculi. So we feed them just a grass hay, a Bermuda grass hay. And our goats are on about an acre of pasture. They have free rein on that. And they have quite a few trees in the back and shrubs that they can browse as well. Our bucks are in a pen, so they don't have access to grazing, but they get the grass hay. And then we like to bring in treats from the garden, grass clippings from untreated lawns, that sort of thing to help balance their diet too. right, so that's the second batch of milk, and we're gonna go strain it just like the first and then move it to the milk fridge. We herbally deworm our goats, and here in the desert we really don't have a huge parasite problem, but I do put out free choice herbal dewormer about once a month mixed into some kelp granules. We use Fir Meadows DWA, and if I have a goat that seems to actually be struggling, I definitely dose them, more particularly to just them, and I single dose them. But this helps just keep the herd healthy. So now the herd is out and they'll be on the pasture all day. It is a rainy day, so I have a feeling they might stay in the barn a little bit more than heading out to graze. The kids are inside waiting to start homeschool with me, so we're just gonna pop the milk in the fridge and get on with our day.
Won't be long. I'm there before the setting sun. For you to fall into
So we got just shy of 2 gallons today.
place I call my home. I was looking to belong when I already found my home.
This here is the cheese fridge, which has actually quickly been overtaken by daffodil and tulip bulbs for the flower farm. Those will get planted soon though. Lots of good cheese aged in here. Some I'm very anxious to try soon. Good? Which goat do you think it was from?
I was looking to
Timmy.
belong when I'd